Welcome to Changing the Game, where bold leaders, rule breakers, and trailblazers drop the playbook and share how they lead, win, and shake things up. Welcome to the show, everybody. My name is Jordan Duran. Today, I'm joined by Holly Arend. Holly is a creative force in the world of sports storytelling, currently serving as the director of sports at Hazze Media, where she's helping humanize athletes and shift how women in sports are seen and celebrated. With a background in figure skating and a mission deeply rooted in personal experience, Holly is passionate about telling stories that go beyond performance. Her work centers on authenticity, visibility, and building community around the real lives of athletes, not just their highlight reels. Through campaigns, content, and conversations, she's helping lead the next generation of women's sports media, one powerful story at a time. Holly, welcome. I'm so excited to have you on the show today.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much.
Of course, your story is so cool, and I just love the passion behind what you're doing, and your why seems like a big component of, what you do, what you're passionate about. So yeah, I'm excited to share your story with the listeners today. I would love to know how you're deciding what athletes, what's your process like for when you decide to feature an athlete's story in the publication?
Definitely. I think there's a few different components to it. I love always highlighting an underdog or anyone who's not really seen in your ESPN, your TSN, etc. Just because they always have a story to tell and they're never really highlighted in, the best way they could definitely be. A lot of research goes into it. My team and I will sit down sometimes and we always have a running list of people we want to reach out to, which might I add is very long now. But it really depends on us if they also align not only with the mission of Hayes Sports, but with Hayes, and if they're someone who really does want to tell their story as well. There are some people that obviously don't want to talk about their story yet, and that's totally okay. We're always happy to meet with them and just chat about it too. But when it comes to a lot of that reach out, it's usually from people we see on socials, or there's some connection to previous interviewees, or they're people that just somehow pop up in your life one day and you're like, wait, you have such an amazing story. Let's talk more about it. And I want to definitely see if we can help someone on the other side of that too. And I think a lot of our stories that we've told thus far in our first year have just been really great stories, not only with resilience and persistence, but also talking about the taboo with mental health and kind of the facing of rejection and strength and growth from that too.
Yeah, storytelling is so important, Holly. I love that. I think what you're doing is really important because even if it impacts one person, it's making a difference in real people's lives, which is really important work. What is one of your favorite stories that you've had the opportunities to tell so far?
Oh, it's so hard, honestly, because
I
I
know it's a good
really
question.
loved all of our stories that we've had. And I feel like I've been asked this before with just friends and family too. And I think it's always just, it will change with, I think that maybe the time. But I think a really impactful story that we've kind of told recently was Luca Fantilli's. And he's such an amazing guy and just such a strong teammate I know on the University of Michigan ice hockey team. But he has a story really beautifully rooted in mental health awareness, as well as just, learning to navigate the world in all the stuff he's done. And I think it's honestly such a beautiful story and a really cool one to highlight as well. Kind of on the flip side of that, in the women's sports industry and stuff, I have to give mad props to Valentina Ricci, who is a bilingual sports reporter. Her story is just absolutely insane. And our team, I think we were all on TikTok one day and we're like, have you seen this girl? She's so cool. We all sent it to each other at once. We're like, okay, so obviously we need to tell her story. And she is just a light beyond words. She is just so amazingly joyful, happy, always willing to do what she wants to do, and also not make just a name in women's sports, but also for the Latinx community as well.
Yeah. Yeah. The gaps that you're telling, I mean, there's so many gaps in the stories between what's told on mainstream media and just what goes on and maybe those underseen athletes, I guess I'll say. I want to know, have you always had a passion for the mental health side, the taboo side of maybe these stories that aren't being told, or where did that come from?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's kind of like something I never really get to talk about too, and just kind of what we've done. I went to school to study psychology and neuroscience in my undergrad with a specialty in cognitive and behavioral. I love psychology. I nerd out about it so often. It's not even funny. I can tell you that the two girls I work with constantly don't want to hear me yap about it. But I always have found the brain fascinating and joyful and wonderful. My brother's on the spectrum. I have epilepsy. So it's always been kind of a big thing in my life to talk about the brain, what's going on, kind of where research is going. And I think a big part of that was I remember when I was younger, my dad was reading this book on mirror neurons. And I was like, I want to read it. And he's like, you would not understand it. You are in eighth grade. This is like, pretty high researchy book. And
You're
I
like,
was like,
try
no, no,
me,
no.
try me, Dad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
try me. And I read the book and I loved it. And I was like, wait, this is something I can do and make a change in. And I think a lot of when I went to college, I just really wanted to find ways I could help people in the unconventional, in the fun, in the different. And I kind of knew that I never really wanted to be like a therapist or a psychologist or anything. Like, granted, it would be so fun to do that now, but I think I wanted to use what I learned and help not better the community like in a research aspect, which is also very fun but very tedious, I guess, but in a way that I could yap, I think is the best way to put it. Yap and make people feel comfortable, but it's not like that weird comfortable where you're like sitting one on one with your therapist and you're like kind of yapping about like, oh man, my day sucked, but more in a way where they can tell their story and kind of just bridge that gap. And I'm really happy I get to use what I learned in school as well. So I think I took a lot of that when I started Hayes. And then also, obviously, just like personal experience with sports too. And tried to really combine that in a way where it's not only a safe space to tell your story and understand that like it's part of you and it helps other people, but in the sense of there's definitely a kid or a teenager or a young adult who's going through something similar and they're probably looking for someone to be like, oh, like you also are going through it, you have gone through it, so I know there is a better tomorrow, like I know there is light on the other side of that tunnel. And I think that's something I never really understood until someone told me that was like something they had happened to them. And I was like, wait, that's beautiful. And I want to continue to make space for that too.
Yeah, absolutely, Holly. I think that's such a beautiful through line for your career journey too. It's like you have this very personal connection with, your brother and your epilepsy, and bringing that experience into how can I you brought it into your studies with how can I help other people, but you took a very non-traditional route to get where you are now. Like you decided, hey, maybe I don't want to, I'm studying psychology, but I don't want to go into that as a career path, but how can I use this as a way to honor my why and my love and passion for psychology, and how can I bring it into this next chapter of my career? So I think that's really cool how you strung it all together and the puzzle pieces have kind of fallen into the place where they should. And you actually mentioned in our first conversation that you advocated for your role at Hazze Media. You kind of created your own role here. So I want to hear a little bit about that because this role didn't exist before you started working there. So,
No, actually, yeah, it's so wild. I had worked with Hayes beforehand. I was doing concert photography, journalism, etc. Just on the story to getting there was just so funny too. I was working previously for another music magazine. They went under. I was at GovBall. I met these amazing human beings. Shout out Annie and Jewel at GovBall, and they were like, "You would really love Hayes," and I'm like, "That's so funny," because like this is my last assignment ever for them. And so I ended up talking to Ezra, I think like a few weeks later after that, and I had been working for Hayes. I've done like some really cool stuff on the concert and music side, which just genuinely was just such a fun experience, and I loved so much. And but always there's that little passion in you who like I love sports. Like I would really like to do something, but I don't know how. And I'm really grateful that, I stuck with Hayes through not only like my undergrad, but going into my master's too. And I came back after my time with the Canucks and I was applying to a bunch of jobs, and I call it, rejection is redirection, where it's just the job market sucks right now. I'm going to be so honest, and I've had women reach out to me and they're in the same boat I was in last year. And it was like, I just can't get anything to land, or I'm getting ghosted, or I'm going 4 to 5 rounds on interviews. And then it's like, oh, I'm getting cut, and I think from a lot of that, not like anger, but frustration and stuff. I one day just shot off a text. I remember this. I was on my couch and I was just so depressed from the last couple months. And I was like, I just don't know what I want to do with my life. Like, was my time in Vancouver just like a blip in time? Was it just a random little moment, you know? And I texted Ezza and I was like, hey, like, this is so, so random. Would you be okay with starting a sports section? Like, can we do something like this? And just on like a whim. I didn't even think it was gonna work too. And she was like, yeah, I would love to. Like, let's talk about it tomorrow. And I had no idea what I was doing. I had no mission statement. I had nothing. I just had this idea of like, let's start a sports section and see what happens, you know? And I remember staying up that night and just putting my all into creating kind of like what the bones of Hey Sports was. And I remember sitting on a call with her the next day and kind of explaining my idea and what I wanted to do. And it wasn't like obviously all put together yet, but I was like, here are the bones. I want to move from the bones and just see what happens. And I'm still incredibly grateful that she's trusted me through this entire process, this entire year, you know, and just kind of using my skills not only from like my master's and my undergrad, but also, you know, having an amazing support system with my friends and my family and stuff as well, who have just been there for me through all the things that I've done. And a lot of it was just shooting my shot in the best way possible. Like, I know this is so cliche to say, but like Wayne Gretzky's like, you know, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And like, I weirdly live by that now, you know, but it's like definitely the Michael Scott voice from The Office in my head. It's not Wayne Gretzky's voice, but I will always put myself out there if I can and just try and make sure that people know what we're doing is filling a gap in the market, is doing something that's unconventional to other people that people don't really want to talk about, but they're edging towards, but it's not there yet. And I think a lot of my time in Vancouver, you know, working in ticketing and sales really helped me be able to be comfortable pushing myself like that, which is just like, thank God it did, because I remember doing my first phone call and I was like way too scared. But now I'm like, yeah, I'll yap all day long. I'll send a cold email. I don't care. And I'm just really grateful to be able to do stuff that I am able to do. And thank God Ezra took a chance on me. And we've just, this last year has just been so insane. And I think advocating for the role that I have now has not only helped us as like, you know, a section and whatever, but it's helped Hayes grow. It's helped the industry know that there is something out there that people can look forward to, can tell their story about. People have come up to us when AHL All-Star Weekend and some other weekends and been like, oh, I've seen your stuff. My friend sent that to me. And it's like that really weird, surreal moment. You're like, oh, like, okay, like, yeah, this is actually doing something. We let them really kind of charge that narration in their story. And it's like, if you want to say something that will help contribute to your story, but you don't want it part of your story, like tell it. We'll keep it off the record, you know? And I think a big part of that too is like, it's only shared between my team and I, and that's it. You know, like it's not being junketed out to everybody else. It's, you know, whatever you say stays here and it's not moving unless you want us to move it, you know? And I think
Yeah.
that's a really special part for them as well, is like they can be very honest about their story, and it might not make the final cut, but it will help contribute to the questions we ask during their interview session and will help move the story forward.
Yeah, I think we live in an age of authentic where people are craving that authenticity though. So I think that is really powerful, like being able to make your guests feel comfortable or your interviewees feel comfortable and being able to get them into that frame of mind where they want to answer questions in an authentic manner where it is a safe space. And I think on top of that, going back to just your career journey, I think you definitely haven't had a linear career path, which is pretty cool to see. I work with a lot of candidates here at Shift Group that don't have a linear career path, where they have no idea what their next step entails. And I think, especially as athletes, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to have it all figured out and have the perfect thing. And that's just not reality sometimes. So I'd love if you could talk just a little bit about, you know, your career journey. Like you mentioned you were with the Canucks and then you had to learn sales. And yeah, I'm a little bit biased there too, but I think everything is sales at a certain point. And you learned how to advocate for yourself in order to ask for the role or create the role at Hazze Media. So what brought you into the world of hockey? You have a figure skating background. So how did that work out? And how does that athlete mindset still kind of impact you in your role today?
Yeah, definitely. I think I've grown up in a very, very Canadian family. Both my parents are Canadian. My brother was born in Canada. I'm like the lone wolf. I was born here in the States, but I'm truly like, I have dual citizenship. So I'm very American, but I'm also very Canadian in a way I am. Uh,
Roots for sure.
oh, of course. My dad grew up playing hockey all his life. He went and did intramurals, I think, college through his PhD. And I just remember some of my earliest memories being watching like Stanley Cup games because
Yeah.
everyone has to sit down. It is like, it's a moment, like you have to. I remember the 2010 Olympics, like I just, I'm a huge figure skating girl. Like I love figure skating. I think my dad is still a little biased that I didn't take that path, but I remember watching my cousin. She was on Team Canada at the time. Synchro's not in the Olympics yet or anything, but I was sitting there and I remember watching her, and I think I turned to my mom and I was like, I want to do that. I want to do whatever she's doing. And I think my dad died a little bit on the inside during that. He's like, no, 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 cut back to the hockey side. And I just loved it so much. I started skating lessons, I think, like a month after that, and I started competing at like the age of 10. So I was pretty late to the game, if you want to say, like, you know, going to the Olympics, nationals, whatever. Like, I kind of knew that going in. I thought it was just going to be like a fun little thing. It did not turn into a fun little thing.
Yeah.
It turned more into I'm going to compete and I'm going to see how competitive I can get. And I loved skating. It was something that not only taught me a lot about myself and kind of how to be artistic and be technical at the same time, competitive yet beautiful. My senior year of high school, I was like, I'm going to quit skating. I think I'm like probably threatened it like a lot of times, and God bless my coaches because they had to hear it every time. And I think I was just so done with the world of it. And I quit. I went to college my first year. I went to the University of Oregon. I had that year. It was great and I loved it. But then I realized like this is too much. And ended up transferring out to UMaine, a huge hockey school. And they have a figure skating team. And I was asked, would you like to skate for us? And I had that lingering moment in the back of my mind. I was like, no, I don't want to do that. Like,
Yeah.
I'm done. I've hung up my skates. This is not going to be what I want it to be. I was like, fine. You know what? I will. I'll do it. I'll do it. I brought out my skates, and I think I had so much fun that year. I was skating with people I loved and who were my friends, and I felt so free, and I was able to do stuff and love life. And I think that was such a beautiful moment for me to fall back in love with a sport that I had started to hate. And I made my intercollegiate debut literally, I think, 3 weeks before COVID hit, which was just kind of
Yeah.
in that retrospect. But like, I remember making my collegiate debut, and I was beaming afterwards. I was so happy to be back in like a competition circuit. I think that also kind of drove me to want to do stuff in sports again and like work in it and love it. But obviously, like, no one knows how to get into sports, which I think is also its own issue. I remember applying to like so many teams, and I saw the Canucks they do their little top prospect internship program every year, and then I guess they had two roles for sales and like sales, and then for membership and like retention. And I applied for the membership role because I was like, I don't want to do sales. I was a little scared to do sales at that point. I applied. I got my first interview. It was a group interview. I was so scared to do it. And I remember, getting an email afterwards. It's like, oh, are you also Canadian? Can you work in Canada? And I was like, yeah, I actually am a dual
By
citizen.
chance I am, yes.
Like, by chance I am. Do I have a social insurance number yet? No, but I can get it for you. And I moved on to the second round of interviews, and I think every time I was kind of like, you know what, it's for the experience. It's just to see if I can get it. I don't really care. Like, it's just, I'm happy to be here. I remember getting offered the job. I was sitting literally in the same room that I am sitting in right now. And I just remember being so, so elated. I'm pretty sure I screamed over to my mom and my dad. And I was like, I got that job. And I was like, oh, now I have to move to Vancouver. Oh.
Yeah.
I think I packed up, moved within like 2 to 3 weeks, got out to Van, started my job, and fell in love. I think ticketing and sales and that entire department don't really get enough love as they should be. And I learned so many amazing things. Obviously, how to communicate with members, how to go to events, how to, be at games. And it was just such a surreal and amazing year. And my team was so awesome. And I love them still to this day. They're the most amazing people ever. And getting to experience playoffs as well, I think was such a really surreal moment for me too. Like, was like, wow, like this is what that looks like. And it's so cool.
I thought it was cool that you had mentioned, hey, I applied, you started working in sales in hockey, and it was something that you were nervous to do at first. And we encourage a lot of candidates here at Shift to get into sales because it's a great way to get your foot in the door at a company, and it's a great way to learn a lot of skills that will serve you well in whatever chapter you decide to go into next. Obviously it did, because you learned how to pitch yourself and to advocate for yourself from that experience. So I'd just love to know, if you would give any advice to candidates who are maybe considering what to do next in their career, and would it be sales?
Yeah, definitely. I think if you're wanting to get your foot in the door anywhere and you're okay with emailing and hearing stuff from people, I would definitely recommend sales. I think it's great. There's obviously like a retention side of that too. If you're not super comfortable with getting into sales and you want to work with like members or people who have bought stuff already, like that's also a safe place to go. I've had a lot of people ask me if sales is worth it, and honestly, yeah, to be so honest, I know it's long hours. It's, overhaul of commentary from people. It's whatever. It's commission rates. It's not commission rates. But I think what you learn in a sales role, a customer service role, is so important into how you kind of launch your future. I think I've seen people who haven't come from roles like that, and they enter into roles where they're kind of needing to do something like that, and they just don't know how to do it, what to do, or how to react. And I think sales is a great place to start. If you're even like someone who's shy, I was so shy, like in the sense of like, I don't even know what I'm getting myself into, having to cold call people, get calls of angry people yelling at me because of something that I didn't do. And I
Yeah.
think it teaches you not only a lot about yourself, but it teaches you how to conduct yourself in a professional manner, fast, with tight turnaround, or, you know,
Mm.
being able to communicate not only with your boss, but your boss's boss or other people in the company. And I don't think I would really be in the role I'm in without having had that year of learning and kind of building myself from the ground up, I think is the best way to put it, because you have to like tear yourself down to bring yourself back up into that kind of space too. And
Yeah.
it might be really nerve wracking at the beginning. I mean, I'm going to be so transparent and honest. It was really nerve wracking in the beginning for me, but it helps you learn so much about what corporate world looks like, and even in the non-corporate world too. Like, you still need those skills. I think those are great skills too, and it's, a lot of it's psychologically based too. So I think I really loved it because I was able to kind of hear people
Yeah.
respond back in the way that they would want to either hear it or a way that would calm them down. And I think it's such like a fun role to get into if you're even just wanting to try out sports as well. Like, sales people are always hiring and they're always offboarding, so there's always some room to get in.
So I have a couple more questions for you, Holly, that I want to talk about, kind of getting back into your storytelling mode that you're in right now. I just want to know, you hear from a lot of athletes. You're on the forefront of this new topic that we're starting to talk about in sports media, those taboo topics, the authenticity. So I just want to know what really excites you most about where women's sports storytelling is heading. And do you see any trends of anything that we should expect to see soon in the future?
I think it's going on such a great track now, and I'm so excited to see everything that's coming in, and especially with like Katie Feeney getting hired at ESPN. That was just such a really cool win, I think, for the younger women in sports and the people who want to tell stories. And I think this field is 100% saturated with men. And there's always a really cool perspective coming from women, and there's so many women who are so talented and can do such amazing things. And I think they're sometimes passed over for men in this field because people are scared to take on someone who is not seen as like the norm of what this industry looks like. And I think I'm really excited to see what this next chapter is bringing. I mean, Sports Girls Club, Sports Sisterhood, Katie at ESPN, etc. Like, there's so many wonderful, powerful women out there who want to tell stories or want to, come in and change the game in the best way. And I think now people are becoming a lot more accepting of it. And I really, really love that. And I love hearing from people who are like, I love her. She inspired me to go into sports. I'm like, yes,
Wow.
yes. Because Emily Kaplan inspired me to go into sports. Like, I watched Around the Horn with my dad all the time when I was younger. I'm so sad it's over, but that has become such a tradition for us when it was on. It was watching Around the Horn, watching Tony Reali platform these wonderful, amazing women. Sarah Spain, Mina Kimes, those are the women I was like, I want to be like you. You have inspired me to do this. And to now, I'm not at that level of those women yet, but to have people come to me and be like, you have inspired me to take a chance, go into sports, or you are my biggest inspiration, which still just feels so weird to hear because it's like, me? Thank you. But like, I felt that way about those women. So to see this trend of women being inspired by other women and taking those chances, taking the leap and starting in college and paving their own way, is just so awesome. Like, I wish I had that when I was in college. And now I'm so happy that people are getting the chance to do it in college, build their platforms, start like their teams at their schools and continue to grow and become these amazing women in sports who are hopefully, and they should be, giving back to, the generation before them. And I think that's something that I'm always will advocate, is always try and give back if you can. And because what you do in your generation or your time or whatever can fully impact the next. And I think just a huge trending stuff when it comes to, you're seeing so many women in college sports now who are social media admins. There's so many women, especially in the NHL, who are social media admins who people love, might I add, which I love that so much. But I can't wait for the trend of so many more women in social media, marketing, ticketing, directors roles, etc. And I think hopefully in the next 5 that will become reality, but it's starting now. And I think should continue to grow like that.
Yeah, Holly, I love that. I think the women that you looked at when you were younger, that was a testament to, hey, it can be done. And they set the example for the generations after them to say, hey, they were able to achieve it. Now I want to get there. Now I know it's possible. So I think that's such a cool story that you have all these, mentors, or like not mentors, but just people that you looked up to while you were aspiring to be in this position that you are now. And I think that's a good segue into our last question for the show today. In honor of the show's name, Changing the Game, I just like to ask, what does this mean to you personally or professionally, however you'd like to define it? What does changing the game mean to you?
I think changing the game doesn't just start with a team, it starts with you. And if you want to make a change, take the initiative, make the change, get out of your comfort zone, and just take that leap of faith, because it's going to work out in the end, whether it's the path you thought it was going to take or it's a completely different one. And don't be scared to ask a question, take notes, ask to meet for a coffee chat, sit down with someone, cold call, whatever, because it might just change your perspective. It might just change your life. And just do it, honestly, is the best way to put it. Just take that chance, because, there's so many amazing things out there, so many amazing people, and someone will take a chance on you. And I think just take the moment, change it, because that's what the next part of your life looks like.
Yeah, Holly, thank you so much. I think that's great advice, right? You never know what one decision will lead you to. So say yes to opportunities while you can. So I'm totally with you there. Thank you for joining us today, Holly. Where can our listeners connect with you? Should they link LinkedIn? Should they go on and check out Hazze Media?
Yes, go check out Hazze Media. It's hazzemedia.com, at Hazze Media on socials, and then at Hazze Sports also on socials. And then if y'all want to connect with me on LinkedIn, it's just my first and my last. And then same with Instagram, I think.
Thank you so much, Holly. Appreciate your time today. Thank you to our listeners who tuned in, and we will catch you with a new episode next week. Thank you.